the will to survive and the will to power. So I was speaking and talking about the will because I was getting tempted, guys. I was on a date with a woman this weekend, and I was tempted to use my will to do things that I wasn't supposed to be doing, to be with a woman, to have pointless hookup sex, which is not beneficial for me as a in my career. It won't help me if it's not a long term relationship where I will have children with this partner. So me and my friend Will, his name is Will, and we were talking about the will to survive and the will to reproduce, the will to be more than yourself, and that will is to be with women to create more life. But it's also the will to be more than yourself and to create something more than yourself and to have an impact on the world. So the will is very interesting. And then we read about Schopenhauer, who speaks about the will. And then also Nietzsche, he speaks about the will to power. But Schopenhauer speaks about the will to survive. What do we do in order to survive? So remember, guys, that the will to survive is everything inside of you. It's the will to act in a certain way, to survive ahead of other people and ahead of other species. Your ideas, your bloodline, your will win. It's a struggle of will. That's all that humanity is. It's a struggle of wills. And you have to rise above it. You have to rise above the will of the animal, the flesh, and think. Use your thoughts in order to create something better and larger than yourself. Then we also have the will to power, so it's to become as powerful as possible as an individual, which is also quite interesting, to be the most individually. We can have the collective who can also, instead of being individually strong, they put their energy and forces together and create something larger as a collective. But I dodged a bullet, and after this date with this woman, I understood that she wasn't really my type. She was good looking, but in terms of energy, we didn't really match. I'm more of an extrovert, and she was more introverted. So the will didn't want me to. I controlled my will, and I didn't go on another date, guys. So sometimes the will come at you, and it will make you want to do things that you shouldn't do. If you want uh, self development and self mastery, you shouldn't do those things. But it's also natural. So if it happens, it happens, but it should be with the right people. You need to be strategic when you do act after the will. But the older you get, it's easier to control the will. And you can also use that sexual transmutation in order to create and dominate your field. So it doesn't have to be just procreate directly. You can do that as well. But if you're just having pointless hookups, it's a waste of your energy. So don't do that too early. You can use that towards many things. In the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, he speaks about sexual transmutation. It was one of the first books I read about sexual transmutation. And it's about using your sexual energy. And the sexual energy is the will to reproduce. Because without that, there would be no life on Earth because nobody would want to reproduce. So for you to be able to control that, you have to be very strong in your mind. But then what I also talk about is that you have to control your environment to make it as easy as possible, or I mean as hard as possible, and to act according to the will. So if you're horny, don't go to a nightclub and don't have any sexual videos or images around you. Instead, focus on something else, something that you can. You need to transmute that energy towards something else. So a mission. So when you work a lot, you don't even have time to think about having sex or animalistic urges. You're just so focused on your mission and your purpose. So use your will for something great and become larger than yourself and change the world. So use the will accordingly.